Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Lethal Sales. We're so happy you're here. Thanks for joining us tonight. Our topic tonight is essentially Stellantis, because they, I'm going to start with Russell because they are shaking up the industry.
They are.
Take it, Russell.
I forgot that it was even that. I was really, I was, my expectations were exceeded in that meeting. And the fact that it wasn't prompted by me, they reached out from one of their Southwest Business Center people that saw our product. And when I didn't know who the people were, so I reached out to the guy that I did show it to and said, "Hey, these people just set a meeting with me." And he said, "Yeah, they mentioned they were going to do that, but I didn't know it was going to be those people. I thought maybe there was a play for something, something else. But these people on here are all the decision anybody has to do with, whether it be Schiff, Mopar, they're all the top of the top's going to be there. So you guys got a real opportunity there, and it was great." Like I said, exceeded my expectations. And the fact that Mopar is right around the corner event, and some of them are going to be there, or all of them, they want to come by and meet me too. But the assets that we created, and it wasn't a typical, obviously, presentation. I just covered the highlights, and then as I suspected, they had some extremely technical questions, and my business partner knows how to answer those. They were impressed with that. And yeah, like I said, this is really now. I think the timing is perfect because I showed this same guy about 3 years ago our product, and so when I originally got with him about a month ago, he was like within a couple hours, I got two emails, one from him and one from the Mopar guy that were on the presentation, and about wow, I mean, you have really evolved, etc. Well, in the meantime, we know there's a big shakeup in Stellantis, right?
Yeah.
Floor plan expenses are off the charts. Inventories are double or triple. I mean, support is horrible. Parts distribution is a cluster. The CEO, I mean, they're stepping down. I mean, they can't fix stuff. I mean, so some people think, well, this is maybe the demise. No, no, no. They're going to emerge stronger than they ever have. I really believe. But one thing I thought was really crucial in timing for us is 3 years ago when I talked to them, they signed up with another company that had some semblance of what we did, and it has failed miserably. And the dealers are upset, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So great timing for me, right? And it's like, it's like when we talk to people, you all know this, but when you're building something, I've been doing this for 24 years. After I got out of retail and started, building companies, it's like some of the terminology they use at the dealership. Oh, that's a lay down. He had a mattress strapped to his back. All that kind of terminology stuff. People don't understand. There is no such thing as luck. I have an acronym, and it's laboring under correct knowledge. You got to do the work, man. You got to be willing to do the things and show up every day. And because that's what successful people do. They do daily what average people do occasionally. And it's like, oh, he's just lucky. He fell into no, 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 no. It's all just show up every day and go at it. Quit listening to people who said, you can't do that. I tried that. That won't work. And I know all of you know what I'm talking about because that's how you get it done. Right. Anyway, I was real blessed. And then I want to add something that's not a Stellantis deal, but it includes some CDJR stores. For those that you don't know, we're rolling out all 154 Group 1 stores nationally right now. By the end of this month, in 10 weeks, we'll have all 154 done. We'll have 84 done in the next. We rolled all their BMW stores out today, all their Mercedes stores out today. We already rolled their Toyota, Ford, and Nissan stores out. And I mean, this is quite an honor to be able to. I can't do anything like social media wise yet until it's all done and we have them all installed, et cetera. So it'd probably be mid-October, but by the end of September, all but 5 will be completely rolled out on every single one of their websites. I got to tell you, man, it's like, okay, just keep showing up and doing the work, because there's been many times where I have to place my hair just right because I pulled so much out over the years just trying to get this done. So, but yeah, the Stellantis thing is a big thing. Do you guys and gals think the same thing about Stellantis? Do you think they're going to reinvent themselves?
So Just quickly, and you, Larry, and I, and Tony, Jeff, Jeff decided to get in and out of the business for many years, and Wendy is an original. We've seen the ups and downs of manufacturers. We've seen manufacturers come and manufacturers go. We saw the launch of Saturn.
Yep.
We saw the launch of Scion. We saw we saw Saturn go away. We
Yep.
saw Scion go away.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen quite a bit of it. It's just a cyclical pattern in this industry. We've Stellantis, and well, we'll take Stellantis. Well, they're such a powerhouse, a true powerhouse that people don't actually recognize. I think they have 23 total brands worldwide.
I think it was 14, but whatever, it's a lot.
Yeah, but they're just massive. They're massive. They're just going through a, how would you say, a reconstruction of themselves, just like GM did.
Yeah, metamorphosis.
Yeah, they're shedding some skin, and they're going to come out stronger. They've made one or two missteps, and you know what? It happens.
Yep.
You look at when Ford went out with Jack Nasser and decided that the PAG group was the greatest thing in the world, and they had Aston Martin, they had Volvo, they had Mazda, they had Jaguar Land Rover, they had a lot of brands, Volvo, and then they shed those to emerge stronger in 2008, and they didn't go bankrupt like Chrysler and GM did. They worked through the storm. So is it a challenge right now to dealers? And if Ron Boss was on the call, he would be able to turn around and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm dealing with one hand on the 911 button to save me from going to the heart attack room."
Hey, Peter, Ron couldn't be on two calls at once, and right now he's on the phone with the suicide prevention hotline.
like
having a group meeting.
It's a Northwestern CDJR meeting on one call, and as you said, the suicide prevention on the other. So it's a challenge, and we're so resilient in this business. We, like when Daimler and Chrysler merged, I remember being with Benz at that time and going, "What the hell's going on?" But it came through. But Benz came through stronger than ever. They reinvented themselves, and they took the best of the best. So I don't see as a concern. I just hope that the dealers don't crater themselves in the meantime, because they have that opportunity. Because when you have a rudderless ship, and a true rudderless ship, where's it going? No one knows. And what speed is it at? Are they still at full speed and going out of control, or have they gotten smart enough to pull back on the throttles?
Peter, I want to do you think, because I'll lose my thought here, do you think that they're going to shed some franchises?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. The franchise it's a consolidation play right now, and that's how they're going to survive it. They're going to cut back. I know parts of North America where they have competing dealerships across the street from each other, literally across the street, and it's two CDJR dealerships on the same street within a mile of each other. And does that make any sense? Well, that's the way it was. Anybody with money could open up a dealership, and they allowed it, but it doesn't make any business sense. But considering the time span, there's 8 minutes left before Tony has to vacate Elon Musk's ugly stepchild, the BXZ4Z, whatever it's called, and get into his group. So I'd like to pass it on to Tony. So go ahead, Tony.
Peter, you must be hungry. Do you want a knuckle sandwich? I got one. No, I thinking about Stellantis. I mean, here in Madison, we're about 500,000 people in the metro area, if you will. And our Toyota store outsells all of them probably 2.5 to 1. Our one Toyota store.
Yeah.
If I look across the street, there is one right across the street, and that place is packed with cars. I mean, double parked, packed, sideways, however they can get them. And then you look across our way. This morning, I had 12 on the lot, and by the end of the day, there were 3.
Mm-hmm.
And so Chrysler they just don't have products people want. And then and the only time people want their products is when they're fresh and new, and by the 3rd cycle, they're dead on the vine again. And I just think they need to stop doing that to themselves. Stop building just to sell a lot today and nothing tomorrow. Do you know that the Toyota RAV4, the #1 selling SUV probably in the world, has not seen a major facelift since 2018, and we're still the #1 selling product in the world? Toyota Camry, I mean, they just facelift that thing after 7 years. Gorgeous, beautiful redesign on that car, and it's been the #1 selling car for more than 20 years in America. So building products that give you a shot in the arm today and then wither on the vine tomorrow has been the demise of Chrysler, in my opinion.
Well, I'll give you another scenario, and we talked about it on Service Drive Live on Sunday a couple of weeks ago. I drive a Jeep Wrangler, and I bought it because it has one of the highest resale values of any vehicle in North America. And I bought it because I didn't want the vehicle. I just wanted a temporary solution. Well, after having about 2,000 miles on it, it started shaking itself to bits on the highway at 50 miles an hour. You couldn't hang onto the steering wheel anymore.
Right.
And so I took it back to the dealer, and I'm going, something's wrong with my Jeep. I can't drive it on the highway. It wobbles like a broken shopping cart. And the service advisor, out of his words, "Oh, you have the death wobble."
Yeah.
And I went, "What?" And there was a guy standing next to me, a customer, and he turned around and goes, "Oh yeah, I've had 4 Jeeps, and each one of them's they've all had it."
Oh my God.
And I'm going,
Yeah.
"What are you talking about?" And
Yeah.
then the service advisor goes, "Hey, just look it up on Google. You'll learn all about it, the class action and everything." And so they've known about this since 2008.
Oh my.
And they haven't fixed the engineering. The vehicle hasn't changed since 2008. It's the same flipping truck, just a different motor in it. But I've had it in the shop 4 times to get a total new front end on the car, and it comes back every 10,000 miles.
Well, do you remember when that Wrangler, I don't even know anymore, I haven't been in one in a long time. You remember when the steering wheel was off center?
Yeah.
Like when you sat in the driver's seat, it was off center for like 20 years, and they can't even figure out how to get the steering wheel centered on the driver's seat. Are you freaking kidding me? And
I can say that about Mercedes too. Mercedes had their steering wheel that it was about a half an inch forward on the left-hand side than the right-hand side, and so it was tilted. It was about a 10-degree angle away from you on the left-hand side, and it was a design, internal design for safety. And now explain that one to a customer. Well, it's a safety item. Why? Will Stuttgart tell us?
Audi actually had a very similar feature with their product as well. I believe they probably got it from Benz, but their steering wheel was off center as well.
So what happens in the shops for these Chrysler, Jeep
CGDR dealers, when there's no sales going on, the shops have to be hurting too. I'm texting right now with my friend Darren that some of you know here, and he took his 3500 in to the Dodge dealer today because he had a real clunk when he turned the wheel, and the tech told him, "Oh, that's normal. We don't care."
Oh no, the solution is don't turn the wheel.
So Darren went and found the TSB online and called him back, and he said, "Look, man." And I said,
Yeah.
Darren, I said, that wouldn't have got fixed if you weren't who you are, and researched that, because the dealer just would have said, "Sorry, you can't help. See you later."
Mm-hmm.
And let me guess, Jeff. Now that whatever parts they need, they can't get them.
Well, they told them they ordered. The parts will be in next week, but yeah, we'll see,
But
right?
I'll tell you, it's not unique to CDJR or Stellantis or any of the manufacturers. I had a Porsche Panamera, and they put from the factory, they put the wrong camshaft bolts into the V8 engines, and the actual recall was over 3 years old before they got to my Panamera.
Okay, here's my
Wow.
question: what are they going to do? What are some of the things you think may be on the horizon? They got to start somewhere to turn it around. It's not overnight. It's going to take
Nope.
years. Where do you think they'll start?
Turning the battleship? Okay, so the first thing that they're going to do, in my opinion, my humble opinion, and being in this industry for as long as I have, is the very first thing is dealer consolidation. They're going to allow buyouts, just like Buick did. Buick just went through a buyout stage where they were reducing their dealer body by 60%. 60%.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So using your analogy, how do you turn that battleship? The first thing you do to turn a battleship around is get it into open water. And that's exactly what you're talking about, Peter. You've got to open up the opportunity to shut down some of the outlets in order to turn that ship around, because you're not going to turn it around in a river. You got to get it into open water.
You can't turn it around on a retail side when you have over a 300-day supply of automobiles sitting on your lot.
There's got to have to be some qualifying factors too. Of no, hell no, I ain't getting bought out.
Yeah. So here's another scenario with that, and we got to understand that one of the challenges is the unions, and the unions with the last go around with the UAW and giving them everything they want. They can't shutter the plants down to solve the inventory issue. So they're producing cars. They're producing cars that they can't sell because they're not price competitive, and they're not vehicle competitive to the marketplace right now.
Well, on the flip side of that, just out of curiosity, with the current situation with the UAW right now threatening a overall strike because they're not opening up that one plant in Illinois, in theory, that would prevent them from producing cars.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a roundabout way to not produce vehicles. It sucks, yes, but in the grand scheme of things, could it be the mastermind of all sitting there saying, okay, well, let's not open up the plant so we can stop production of cars that way versus just stopping and going against the UAW? I don't know.
So,
Jason, is that the Belvedere plant?
Yes.
I drove by it on the way back from Chicago. I was wondering, that place is completely empty. And that place, I mean, it's a big factory. I haven't been around a lot of car factories, but it was totally shuttered.
It was part of the negotiations last year that plant was supposed to be reopened by now, and it has not been reopened. And
no, it's not open. I can tell you that.
No, and Stellantis made promises that they were going to do that. And in light of it, the UAW is now threatening a overall strike, I believe, on all brands. As a matter of fact, I think is what I read, that they're threatening a strike on everybody if Stellantis does not open up that one plant.
Damn, what a
mess. Yeah.
Well, and I think you might be very wise in that comment, Jason, because if you can artificially create a slowdown,
mm-hmm.
you can reduce your inventory flow to your dealerships. Reducing the inventory flow to the dealership is going to reduce the need for additional incentives. So if you reduce the need for additional incentives to sell the product because you're lowering the day supply, you're in a
That's
better
brilliant, actually.
so
Yeah.
And if
Thanks,
they do
Cody.
it, if they do it for all dealer or all manufacturers as they've threatened, how many problems does that cure? Stellantis, GM, Ford, if they're going to strike all of the major US brands that all have day supply that are swelling, at the top of the pool.
So the UAW is threatening the big three, not just Stellantis.
From what I read, that is correct.
I know I just don't know what I don't know. That kind of play, it puts an enormous amount of pressure. And with all three of them, I mean, that's a disaster, isn't it?
It was a disaster signing the deal in the first place. So they brought it upon themselves. So for me, I say too bad, so sad. I look back to Larry's favorite man, Ronald Reagan, and say, hey, you want to strike?
Mine too, though.
You got 24 hours, otherwise you're fired. And what happened? 24 hours later,
He fired them.
Here's all your walking slips, and goodbye, good riddance, and we'll put the military in until we can retrain and bring people on. He crushed it in 24 hours, and it's never ever happened again with that group of people.
Right.
Never. And that's 50 years almost. So, you know what? And I've talked about this on many occasions. We're in a situation that the car companies have priced themselves out of reach. They've become uncompetitive because of the unions. The unions have gone in and just crushed what is out there. You look at what they're doing in California, and I'm going to go on Larry's tangent here, and I'll go political for a minute. You got California. And California, we got to have a minimum wage of $20 an hour to pour Cokes out of QSR. And what does that do? It took a Big Mac meal deal to $25 in LA. Well,
no way. No way. $25 for
Wait
a
a minute,
Big Mac?
Peter, and how many people got laid off? I think like 10 or 12,000 people got laid off because they could no longer afford to pay them to do deliveries and things like that.
Exactly.
Not just laid off, they lost their hours and companies closed.
You got over 700 restaurants in California closing.
Mm-hmm.
Closing or closed.
Mm-hmm.
All those people gone. And now you look at it and you say
you can't even afford a Big Mac attack. I mean, this is the problem.
Yeah. So
Denny's Grand Slam is $17.99 in California.
Oh my
you're talking
God! Well, thank God for IHOP.
pancakes is a pancake.
That's all I have.
Listen. If I always understood the concept of selfishness, we're humans, and if Jeff Scherer said to me, "I'm voting for this guy," and I said, "Jeff, the guy's a crook," and Jeff said, "I know, but he's going to get me a contract that I need." Okay. It's not moral, but I get it. But we now have people voting against their self-interests. You have the unions lined up for the Democrats, and the Democrats would like an agenda of electric cars, which would put the whole industry sideways. Not an option, but making it all there. And it's funny, Peter, you talked about what I was going to talk about, that Chrysler already survived Daimler, which at the time was the weirdest, most slanted business arrangement of all time. But I also remember when General Motors got rid of Pontiac, which were incredible cars, and Oldsmobiles. Yep. And they did it because they woke up one day. I'm pretty sure that all the guys at General Motors smoked weed, really good weed, because they could afford it. They were executives. Because the line we all used for General Motors was ready, fire, aim. Let's do the dumbest possible thing. We're General Motors. If we build them, they'll buy them. When I was a kid and Russell was a kid, we're roughly the same age. I think Jeff Shearer's in our age bracket. I could tell if a car came down the street, I could tell if it was a Grand Prix or a Monte Carlo or a Cutlass. They look so distinct. And then we all woke up one day and every car looked exactly the same. They overbuilt, that the cars were too similar. You just didn't know what was what. So we've seen this show before. The only difference I think we have now, not to be political, but to be pragmatic, is it's the first time in history that people don't vote in their own interest.
But
vote.
it is political. Thank God for Kamala and Tim.
Yeah,
Not
really.
yeah.
They're doing absolutely fabulous.
People
can't afford bread
Off
and
the
gas
charts
and
right.
food, and they want to vote for him. And
it's okay.
Let me just ask you a question.
Listen, I'm going to help out. We're going to build 4 million new homes. I'm going to give you $25,000 for down. I'm going to pay you.
Can I ask you a question, Russ? Because I'm not the only one that said it. Wendy probably thought of it first, smart as she is. If you give $25,000 credit, all the builders are going to do is raise it $25,000. It's like when they guarantee these college loans. What do the universities do?
But see, I volunteered to pay for it, and while we're at it, I'm going to pay off their student loans for them too. I think.
You know what this is going to mean? He's going to have to sell his artifacts. Behind him, there'll be a picture of Ringo instead of New York City. Okay, and Ringo hasn't had a good song since "It Don't Come Easy" and "Back Off Boogaloo." This could be dangerous, Russell.
Isn't all of this really political, though? All this going on, isn't politics?
It's politics, and it's, you know what else it is? It's the Peter principle. We rise to our own level of incompetence. Yeah. And listen, some of my reps were some of the nicest people I ever met. But doesn't everybody see that some of these reps don't know what planet they're on? They get the same memos we used to get as dealers, and they didn't understand. You know, they always referred me to somebody else at the office that would explain what the program was.
I have not heard any of this with Jason and Peter and Jeff, and with what you guys have just said. Now it makes even more sense. I mean, people are talking about Stellantis, but they don't even. I mean, you guys. I mean, all three. This is.
Listen. I said this years and years and years and years ago. Okay. And by the way, my favorite president isn't Ronald Reagan. It's Harry Truman, because he's the last honest president we'll ever have, because he didn't want the job. You got to be crazy to want that job. Okay. A guy was talking about going on strike. And I said, do you understand that you're going to march around in the rain? Okay. Going broke while your union rep is having sex with a supermodel on a boat in the Caribbean? Do you understand that you're not going to accomplish and you're never going to make back what you get? But it's just, I think Peter's right. I think we'll see a realignment. I don't think they're going out of business. I think they'll shrink up a little bit. I think they'll be smarter. The dealers, I think, will all agree. While a lot of them are crazy, they're very resilient because they have to be, because of the beating we constantly take because of the public's perception of us. But I think they'll be okay. Like, again, I couldn't believe it when Oldsmobile Pontiac went out. Jeff, you remember we were kids? What was a cooler looking car than the Olds 98, the Regency? And the Cutlass in 75 and 76, you can double check me, Mike Larkin. I think it was the most popular car on the planet. This was years before the Taurus and then the Camry took over. So
I had a 78.
Yeah.
And the 69 LT Coupe wasn't bad either, with the little Landau roof.
Yep. Ben Franklin said it. Nothing is for certain except death and taxes. So you're going to see a little shrinkage, and you're going to see some strange things happening. It's just a shame, because so many of these dealers are good people and they're really not doing anything wrong. But when you're given cars that are problematic and an industry, and the factory doesn't seem sympathetic or empathetic to you, you have a problem. Hey, Jeff, Mike, Jason, we didn't get your opinion. What do you guys think?
Elon's laughing all the way, man.
No. Listen. Here's why I really admire Elon Musk. Okay, because his brain works. Not forget about him being a genius. You can be a genius and still be a lunatic. Okay, just ask Zuckerberg, that moron. Okay, he got on a program with Trump. Trump's flat out going to make all these rebates for electric cars go away, but he realizes I'm a billionaire anyway. It's not going to matter. And I think the direction of the country has to go in a different direction. Try doing that with somebody that's on the other side of the fence politically. If you came, Jason Reed, if you said to me, Larry, Trump's a loudmouth egotist, I'd say, you're damn right. I never liked him. I love his policies, and I'm a Jew, and I love what he did with Israel. And I'm an American. I like what he did with the border.
And on top of that, he gave him like $40 or $45 million a month for his campaign too, didn't he?
Yeah, it was. We actually, I can say it now, right, Rhonda? Elon and I are splitting that. He's given 44,995,000 and some change, and I'm going to borrow 5,000 from Peter Smith and give it to Trump. He's Canadian. They'll never figure out the exchange rate.
I mean, here's the difference, though, Larry. Is like, even though if I said that about Trump, you and I can have a conversation about it, and we can agree to disagree. Yeah, where we can have a human conversation about it and have a debate. The problem is you can't have that debate with certain other sides of. That's
because, and this is gospel, Larry. Don't argue with me, you'll lose. Okay, and I say that to all my friends and people I no longer talk to. A lot of Republicans are creepy, and some of them are just bad guys.
Yeah.
But the Democrats, you're insane. Listen, if you said to me you're pro-abortion, you could say, I think a woman's right is more important than a religious sanctity. We can debate it. But how do you debate defunding the cops or opening the borders? It just doesn't make any sense. All right, enough with that. Back to cars. Mike Larkin, handsome hat as usual. What do you think? Stellantis is going to live, die? What's going on? And then later on, we're going to have a pizza party, you, me, and Jason Reed.
Yeah, buddy. I would like to.
Whoa, Jason, you know he went right for the pizza. Maybe I should be doing these speeches instead of Barack. I got Mike to nod his head. Go ahead, Mike.
I'm a pepperoni guy. I Googled as soon as Peter said it. The wobble.
Wait a minute, Mike. Do I detect a pattern here? No matter what happens on this damn show, you look up 10 things on Google, and I add. I don't know. I think I'm having more fun than you, Larkin. If your computer dies, you're stuck.
Yeah, ahead, you don't know the half.
Jason, stop interrupting him, will you? Don't, come on, go ahead, Mike.
The wobble of death and the death wobble. You Google it. It's so funny. So I would like to ask the panel, hey, what do you see as the worst case scenario? And what do you see as the best case scenario? And we're going to land it in between. But I would like to...
Mike, that question was brilliant. Let's get Wendy to answer it, because as young as she looks, she's been around a while. Her family's been around a while, and if she ain't a car person, there ain't a car person on the planet.
Yeah.
Wendy,
I don't put anything past Wendy. She is super intelligent.
Well, so I might be intelligent, but to your point, Russell, I don't know what I don't know. What I do know is the first thing that comes to mind is the games people play. Right? It's always about the humans. The second thing that comes to play is don't freak out about it, because you don't know if it's a marketing ploy. You don't know if it's political. You have absolutely no idea. And stressing the freak out about it isn't going to give you a yay or a nay. And you're just going to regret worrying about it. So I would say control the controllables. Stick to what you believe. And you know what? Whatever happens, we'll do what we do in automotive. We'll pivot.
What Wendy's trying to say is step one, rule one is don't sweat the small stuff. And rule two is it's all small stuff. You're above ground, shut up and keep moving.
Pretty much that's
groovy, baby. Right on, Russell.
Okay.
Right on.
The LSD is kicking in. She thinks she's back at Woodstock in front of Hendrix's amp.
I know, right? I brought the flowers.
How many of
I'm
us?
a flower child again.
How many of us know what the interest rates were in the early 80s on cars?
They were horrendous.
18% or something.
Yeah, we were recovering from Jimmy Carter, who should have stayed a peanut farmer.
Yeah,
we had 0% because I was in the dealership. They gave me a damn key. I opened up at 6 a.m. and left at 9 at night because I typed everything in duplicate on a Selectric computer. I remember. Yeah. GM anyway.
Yeah, the GM. I remember seeing an ad for, I think it was an '83 Buick Electra, and the subvented rate was 13.9. The subvented rate, not the actual rate. The rates were.
Hey, Russell, you can tell he's from Canada because he called it that instead of calling it a deuce and a quarter.
but it was incredible, and we got through it. We understood it. I remember when rates like it. I've seen rates anywhere from 0%, 1%, 2% as a norm to rates in the mid-teens to early 20s.
Yeah, but Peter, it's the first time that we haven't had people surrounding the executive branch smart enough to try to fix the problem. If you know this much about economics, when interest rates are high, the Fed pushes that rate higher, it tamps down inflation. But you can't do that if you continue to overspend. It's like Jason Reed calls me up, my best buddy, and he says, Larry, help me. I'm going to go bankrupt. This is Jason, what happened? He says, me and my wife charged $100,000 in the credit cards at 38%. I pay off his credit cards, calls me next week and says, yeah, I charged him up again.
Yep.
We've never been in a situation where there wasn't somebody, if it wasn't the president, maybe the Fed, maybe a Milton Friedman, somebody saying, wait a minute, we can't continue to spend.
No.
That's why what I'm hearing at this convention is scaring me to death.
Yep.
Because they're talking about throwing another $3 or $4 trillion.
So, you know, here's 9 of the most scary words you could ever hear.
I'm here to help.
I'm here to help.
Here comes the Reagan quote.
Hey, I'll tell you what, Russell, you take the root. Jason will take the third. I'll take the fifth. We'll have a Reagan Harmon.
So,
hey, Jeff Scherer, what do you? Hey, Peter, we've almost froze out Jeff.
Jason,
Nobody knows more about this shit than Jeff. Jeff Scherer, what do you think, my buddy?
Man, I don't think we should talk politics. You know, there's two sides to every coin.
There is.
Yes, sir.
And, you know, I think I said it on last week or a week before, and Wendy just repeated it. Whatever happens is going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've all got thankfully, you know, our ability to vote for whichever side we want. But you know what? It's not going to crush us no matter which way it goes.
No, but Jeff, but there can still be a word to the wise. You and me have grown close. And if I called you up and I said, listen, I'm having some problems. You say, what is it, Larry? Well, I can confide in you. My wife is a drug addict. She's a meth fiend. She sold everything we have and I'm in trouble. And I broke up with her. And then the next woman I found was also a meth fiend. You'd figure at some point, maybe I need to slightly adjust my behavior. Yeah, I don't care whether it's Republican, Democrat, or Martians. You can't continue to spend more than you have, whether you're a business or whether you're a government. You know, Trump was no wizard with this stuff either. And George Bush, listen, I'll give the Democrat the nod. The last guy that had a balanced budget was Bill Clinton. Because he, even though he was a little bit of a dog, he was egoless enough to get with Newt Gingrich. They hated each other and they worked together and they actually cured the deficit. Yeah. How great would everybody's life be if we had no deficit now?
To Jeff's point, my dad was very involved, and my brother and I, we meet once a month before he passed away. We'd have lunch, and we would solve all the world's problems in an hour. I mean, religion, politics, all of it. And we had different views, but we could listen to each other instead of waiting to respond. It was really fabulous. My dad, I watched him over the years. He said things to him were polarized more than he ever remembered. But he said, this is the same 60 years ago. They were saying the same stuff about the left and the right. And he said, one thing I realized was because everybody's talking, it's the end of the world if they get into office. And you know what? It never was. And no one term, 2-term president can destroy what we have. There's always corrections made. And that offered me a perspective I hadn't really heard before. You know,
that's just because the guys that fought and died for this country, the founding fathers, were so brilliant. Do you realize that within 15, 20, 30 years of them doing that, Russia completely blew up? They cut off the heads of the French leaders. By the way, everybody, we found this cat outside. He couldn't walk. Now the sucker jumps higher than like a show cat.
Lewis, hi, Lewis.
Good for you, man. Yeah, I don't know about cats, man. Anyway,
I've always been a dog guy, but my wife loves cats and she fed them. And there was about 1 million of them out of our house all the time. And she took this one cat in because he couldn't walk. And at some point she decided, well, he'll make it on his own. And I took him in She nursed him, and all of a sudden he's like walking. Now I've never been a cat, but this cat Russell thinks he's a dog. He follows.
so-
Rhonda's been in my house. He
Yeah.
follows my wife around. If you call him, he comes. So
Yeah, I'll
So-
say Warren Buffett said it best. I think it was back in 10 or 11 that he could solve the economic problems with the deficit in 15 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever the quote was. But it states that anytime that the GDP deficit is 3% or more, every sitting member of Congress is not eligible for reelection.
Right.
yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
boot
If it
them
was
all
their
out.
money, Jason, it'd be if it was their money, it'd be all different.
Mhm.
Correct. So anyway, but I guess back to Stellantis.
Yeah.
One, I think that Stellantis will land on their feet. I do think that they're going to end up like consolidating dealers. You're going to have a smaller network of dealers to be able to sell and not have the masses, the discounts, or the giveaway, so to say. They're going to have to, I think, liquidate one or two of their brands as a whole. I know Maserati was recently talked about being on the proverbial chopping block, so to say. That would give them a big boost of income. Not like they need it, but it'll give them-
Maserati needs to. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it's
Wait,
like
they also,
it'll
Jason,
give
they
them-
also have to tighten up the quality.
Correct.
I was a Cadillac dealer in a bad neighborhood. I mean, we were basically in what was almost a ghetto, Trenton, New Jersey, and we were competing with Faulkner, who was a gorgeous store in a more affluent neighborhood. And if that wasn't enough of a problem, all of a sudden Lexus came out, and there were very few Lexus dealers, and the cars were terrific. So not only were we battling, and this is going to sound familiar, quality control, but there was too many damn dealers.
Mhm.
You could drive from Faulkner to us to the guy. There was within an hour's drive, you could hit 7 Cadillac dealers. They go from dealer to dealer and beat our brains in. With Lexus, there weren't enough of them. They held their price and they had a well-built car. So I think that it's a pretty simple answer. If they would just adjust their quality, and over dealing, having too many dealers is always a problem because that competition kind of turns on us. Am I right, Jeff?
Well, what's kept them afloat? Stellantis, Dodge Ram,
Yep.
Yep.
right? That's been their lifesaver. Just like, Ford with their F-150,
The number one vehicle on the planet Earth is the F-150. People think it's a car. It's this. That's the one. You're 100% right.
but to your point, I think mentioned earlier, who wants to drive Dodge vehicle car? Nobody does. Remember the K car?
Oh my God.
Oh, okay, hold on.
How about when Iacocca took over and he realized that there were about 60,000 K cars that had been reported and were parked in the back of the yard. And he's, man, I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was this damn bad. That's true, Jeff.
So, but here's the thing about the K car. The K car saved Chrysler.
Yes, it did.
And
It
the
absolutely
minivan.
saved-
And the minivan, Peter.
Well, hold on. But the minivan was based on the K car. It was a single platform that they stretched across their whole brand. And when I say stretched, they actually literally stretched the platform so that they could build other cars on it. It was the same engineering principle. Oh, who's doing that? There is a company out of Germany called VW
And
Volkswagen.
Toyota.
and they mastered that as well shortly after the K car, and that took VW out of bankruptcy, and because VW was in bankruptcy, and who is also the master of that, but they don't do it as defined as that is Toyota. Toyota does that with their brands from Toyota and Lexus, but there is
But Peter,
nobody.
so you could never call a Toyota the manufacturers and say the steering wheel's crooked or there's a quality problem and they let it slide.
No,
You know,
no, that's the differential. They actually, they're the kings of making things right. So
You know what I'd love?
You-
You know what I'd
you
love
guys
to
know that-
see as a. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead,
I was
Wendy,
just
go
gonna,
first.
just gonna throw history in there. Toyota also tried to get into the boat making manufacturing business for a while.
I didn't
Hey,
know that.
Jeff, I got a better mind-blowing fact for you because I'm a David Halberstam freak, the guy that won the Pulitzer for the best and the brightest. Ford looked down their nose at foreign cars, and I'm not making this up. They were actually offered a chance to buy Honda. The whole company, lock, stock, and barrel, and they went, "That's junk. We don't need that." True.
Go ahead, Wendy.
So I have a question, and I think it would be a great follow-up episode. Where does the customer experience come into play here? And some of these brands, as they scaled and got more franchises, did their customer service experience suffer? And is that part of the reason they tried to do a big market share grab? And as restaurants and other things do when they start adding on franchises, the experience starts getting diluted. And if so, I mean, why aren't they looking at doing that? Like, just, I think it all comes down to customer service and the customer experience. Any part of automotive we're talking about today.
Well,
because so much of it, I believe, just my opinion, is based on the human. Wendy, for anybody who doesn't know, is the host of the human side of AI. And when we think of things that are successful, it's usually because of their consistency. When I say this, Rhonda's going to laugh her butt off because every time we meet at Five Guys because I'm the world's plainest eater and I get a plain hamburger. Jeff Scherer was with me when I got a plain steak and French fries. I'm a boring guy to eat with. But anytime you go to Five Guys or anytime you go to McDonald's and get their French fries, they're right. It's the product that has evolved. And even if the lady's a little rude, you're still going to get your milkshake and fries. But because of the nature of what we do and the financing aspects and the amount of time and the reputation we're battling, I think the inconsistency falls in with the human beings. Because while every dealer will tell you we're family oriented, we treat our customers great, somehow that breaks down between whoever said it and what's actually happening. Wendy's a BDC queen. How many times has she heard the BDC did everything but have sex with somebody to bring them in, and then the salespeople blow them off? Why'd you bring that guy in? So it still has to come down to being human and being friendly and having an attitude of gratitude. Boy, am I glad you're here. That's just my opinion.
To Peter's point, and kind of to tie in Wendy's, it is about product. Because if you look at GM, if you look at really any of the other brands, they're selling trucks, they're selling SUVs. And that's where they're making a lot of margin on SUVs, right?
Yeah.
You know, GM, same thing, but nobody's buying, you know, Dodge SUVs. I don't even know, are they still making Durangos?
Yep.
Yeah. You know, that's a good point. Who was it was talking about Dodge Ram and nobody wants it. So I remember this was like 15 years ago or something like that. Ram really wanted to differentiate itself. When you say F-150, everybody knows what it is. You don't have to say Ford. Everybody knows what it is. But when you say, now they just say Ram. They don't say Dodge Ram. They just say Ram. They've done a great job of branding and awareness of differentiating themselves. We know they're not going away.
But that was a van back in the day, right, Russell?
Yeah, Ram van.
But Jeff, it can still be done, right? If I say give me a Kleenex, Kleenex is now synonymous with tissue, even though it's a brand name of tissue.
Well, and you look at how you overshoot the runway. Look what Jeep did with the Grand Cherokee. You know, great vehicle, probably to drive, but nobody wants to drive something that costs over $100,000 that says Jeep on it. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Well, you remember when Volkswagen put out that fancy car, like their attempt at like having a luxury car, and it was crazy money.
I hate to do this, but I got a hard stop tonight at 7, unfortunately.
All right. Well,
Okay.
Are you sure, Russell? Because we're about to have the drawing for the Grand Cherokee.
Hold on a minute.
I thought it was going to be the Ram Hornet. The Ram Hornet was on the table tonight to win.
Oh, the Hornet.
Don't say Hornet around Chrysler dealers. They'll break out in a rash.
Well, no, they need to rebrand it as a Ram, and it would sell.
Well,
I learned a lot tonight, so thank all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Russell.
Bye, Russell.
Bye.
The challenge out there, and it happens all the time, that we leave too many too many decisions to the actuaries and the actuaries and the accountants, and they take the people that are actually deep in the trenches that know what's going on, and they don't ask them. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I get in so much trouble when I talk about 20 groups. And I say 20 groups mean diddly squat to me. And as our good friend April Simmons would say, fluffy duffy crap. The challenge with the 20 group is you're going to tell me someone in Butte, Montana, and a guy in South Beach, Florida, are going to have the exact same dealer model, and they can compete on their, as I forget what the composites. And I'm going, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You want to know what's going on? Stop looking at your composites and start looking at your customers. Ask.
Well, they just in the States, the Supreme Court just reversed the Chevron decision, which involved the concept that sometimes bureaucrats get more of a say than senators or congressmen or presidents because they're unelected bureaucrats, but they get to make decisions that influence. And I think we all feel that way. We all feel like sometimes the people that are guiding us don't know what the heck they're doing, or don't have, the boots on the ground, or don't quite understand it.
Well,
Federal Reserve.
I have to agree with that because I've seen it so often in the 42 years that I've been in this business. And it's like, why do you make a decision to pull a brand that's successful? They pulled Saturn not because Saturn was non-profitable. It was the easiest brand to pull.
Peter, have you watched? I know you're a hockey guy and a hockey player. Try watching baseball. When I grew up, man, they had a guy named Bob Gibson, and Philly had a guy named Steve Carlton. You were afraid to go out to the mound to take the ball from him. They'd punch in the face. Now, if a guy's got a one hit and one walk and struck out 7 guys, they take him out after 6 innings. So I think we've just, the bureaucracy and everything we see in our lives is to such a silly extent that it just makes you quit. Wendy's got her hand up. Yes, ma'am.
No, she hasn't took it down. So this
I'm holding my head up.
I'm just no, you got your hand raised on your screen there, Wendy. So the funny thing is that Tony said to me, "You want a knuckle sandwich?" And I met Tony for the first time in person in Chicago, and since we're both from the north side of the planet, I was going to say to him, "Yeah, Tony, you're Ty Domi to me being Bob Probert, but if you know who those people are, Tony's about 5'4" and I'm 6'2", so you'd have to get up on a chair to do that to me, serve it to me. But anyways, having said that, I'd like to really close this out by saying everyone says that there is a challenge coming through with Stellantis. I don't believe it. I think there are concerns with Stellantis. They'll work their way through it. They're too big to fail. They have too many brands. They are too strong in too many markets. And what's going to happen is there's just going to be a little bit of reconstruction. They're going to change a number of platforms with the company. They're not going to get through. They're not going to kill Maserati, because I'll tell you what. How many times did Lamborghini die? Lamborghini's being owned by probably 25 different companies, including Stellantis. Stellantis owned Lamborghini, but Lamborghini is one of the most successful brands on the planet right now. So there's nothing to worry about. It's teething problems yet again until they find their way to the right pathway. If we look back to the 70s and we look at the launch of the Honda Civic, and we see how many Honda Civics in the early 70s lasted a couple of years before they turned to dust because of the metal used in them. Same with the Hyundai Pony. Same with all these things. These are they're generational change problems, and Stellantis will get through them. They have that backing. It's like saying, the blue oval's going to go away or the bow tie is going to go away. It ain't going to happen. There is just too many people that live and breathe it. When you have people out there putting tattoos that say Mopar on or Hemi on their bodies, it's not going to die. So that's my 2 cents. And if anyone else has any or statements, I'd love to hear them before we sign off.
My statement will be Mike and Jason and Wendy. As always, it's so nice to see you.
Yeah, and just
You guys too.
let you know that tomorrow night is a very unique call. I have Scott Armstrong, Scott Trainer, Tom Klein, and Stephen Facile on the Automotive Innovators and Disruptors room. We're going to talk about the devil in the details, how small details can eliminate liabilities and increase profitability in the dealership. So it's
how's Scott Armstrong feeling?
Scott, he's doing very well. You would never know that the guy had a stroke 2 weeks ago, and
wow,
he's up and walking, and I saw something posted the other day which was pretty amazing. That Lloyd Steves, I don't know if you know Lloyd, but Lloyd jumped on a plane and flew down to Alabama to visit him.
Not shocking. What a gentleman Lloyd is.
Yeah, well, he was up in Pennsylvania with the Scott Group and jumped on a plane, went to Alabama, and that's absolutely a judgment of his character. He doesn't do business with Scott. Scott approached him for a opportunity, created relationship, and because of that relationship, he jumped on a plane and took him some bad food.
Okay.
Pulled pork, I believe
Thank
it was.
you very much, everybody. It was great seeing you. Hope to see you next week. Good night.
good
Stay
night.
healthy,
Great weekend.
everybody.